Y'all hear me okay? I'll move this out of my way so thank you for picking up my height. I appreciate that. All right. Yeah. Look, it's time to dust off the notepad. Beats in a toe tag. Sing to my soul glad and move like a nomad. Nah, I ain't angry at all. What's the purpose if the prop will fall? I hang my hat like a frame on the wall. On only what I know will keep me in awe. It's hard to fail when you seen this before. Been giving driving my will like I'm yelling out for. And if there's fear at my core, swap club for the sword. King Arthur, lift my pencil is sore. Put the pedal to floor, Toretto and Thor, my family. Sever the cord to all of the bull that damn me. When matters adore, I'm thanking the Lord for Grammy. He holding it down, I never had to play the plan B.
So, you go by IV. Where does that, obviously that's your initials, but, that's not your first
last name.
So, heads might not know, that's not your first last name.
Yeah.
So, how has that kind of been a staple in you with making music, and how that's played a part in from your beginning, and like why you've been making music, and how just like the Ivy stamp has been your thing right now?
Absolutely, yeah. I think the way I'd answer that is, I was born Isaiah Monroe. That's my biological father's last name. Velez is actually my stepdad's last name, but my stepdad's my dad. He's raised me to be a man since 10, 11, 12. So on a name, when it comes to like separate from the music, I officially changed my name to Velez in 2019, but in high school, everybody knew me as Isaiah Monroe. In college, everybody knew me as Isaiah Velez because my mom is the dean of students at Naya College where I went. So it's like Velez, oh, that's Isaiah, oh, mom.
Right.
So that's how the Isaiah Velez starts to stick. Change my Facebook name, social media name, obviously.
You get serious once.
So
it
it wasn't a thing you had to tell people to change. It was like, people were already starting to learn who
Context.
you were as Isaiah Velez
In
before
fact,
you got to change it.
They were confused by that notion because they're like, wait, you're Isaiah Monroe while we're in class and people are calling my name,
Yeah.
But as we're nearing the end of college, I wanted my degree to say Isaiah Velez, plus I was getting married in 2019. I wanted to pass, bring that Velez name on so that my wife then becomes Velez. So I made that move, and it was really monumental for me where I was developmentally as a man and also as a creative. The IV is a nickname that was given to me, which is how I think nicknames should be, right?
That's why I don't have one.
Exactly. You're just
My name's so short.
That's it.
I don't need one.
100%. But you'll probably end up getting one at some point.
Well, shout out Uncle Bobby. I'm Don Deep
Don't
Bobby.
think I was about to say
So,
that.
yeah,
But only Uncle Bobby goes me.
they might start calling you that now, bro. But anyways, so IV was given to me because I dropped a song called IV, and I climbed up on like the recreational building of my college, and we did a song. We called it IV, and it was play on words with like, I think my last line is like, these whack rappers are draining the game, but I know the IV. I was calling God IV. IV, rejuvenating, you get in your veins, it brings life. So then people are like, oh, IV, Isaiah Velez, and boom, that's how it sticks. And then that's around the time when I decided to change my name. So I've just kind of fully accepted all of being IV, 100%. To the point where, now I'm rocking the IV jacket. You're gonna have to show me, put that in later. All that being said, it's monumental to me. I carry it into music, but I don't think I would ever put on like a song featuring IV. I always wanted to say Isaiah Velez because I want to present myself as who I am.
Right.
But IV is something you give me around.
Yeah. Makes total sense. So, I mean,
Long-winded answer, but you got it.
yeah, no, but
As it
needed.
should be.
Yeah.
For sure. So you learned how you got your name and all of that. So like in your music, like what's your aim in your music? I mean, to my ears, it's clear you just want to spread love and the word of God.
Yeah.
So I mean, how big of a role has faith played in your life and in making music? Like, and has that always been the message you want to get across? Because I mean, today, I don't even gotta explain it.
Yeah.
All the terrible things that people put in their music.
Right.
So it's like, at least to have people that do great things with their music.
Yeah.
It's so good for the heart. So it's like, how is that? Like, what is that inside of you?
I think I wrestle with this, right? Because you see the countless. Well, first of all, faith is important to me. It always has been important to me. I was raised, in the faith. Faith became my own when I was able to maturely state it would become my own. You get to that point where your faith isn't your parents anymore, and
Right.
finally it becomes yours. And I've always, same college that I went to, I lived on the campus of. Like I said, my mom was a leader there, so exposed to on this Christian campus, young adults that are 18 to up, walking out faith, and I got to see that in real time and be impacted by that hillside of a college in a way that I think helped me to really go, all right, this thing is my own. My relationship with Jesus is my own. This is how I want it to come off. I've seen how I don't want to walk out faith. I've seen some people who share it in very corny ways, and I think make very corny obstacles for us as Christians. You know what I mean? And I think like music for me, I never wanted it to feel like something I had to overthink in the way that I release what I'm talking about. I wanted it to always be organic and simple. So when it comes to light and love and faith and all that, it does flow, but it really flows because to me, music is just, I've said it since day one and I'll keep saying it. These are just my journal entries, man.
Yeah.
Y'all just getting a peek at my journal. You're just getting a peek at what I talk to God about and talk to my wife about and my best friends about and to you about. And I think like every song is an opportunity to authentically show up with where I'm at. And there's always some level of magic that comes from that because I think you connect with people organically when you're just authentic and transparent like that in the music. And that's why I think you get light from what you hear and a good vibe. You hear the faith. It's like you're hearing me.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a culmination of
Yeah,
who I am.
and it shows that you're at peace with who you are and you have a beautiful family. So how is that like being an artist like in your life, putting that artistry aside to make sure that your faith is intact, your your wife, your kid.
Yeah.
Like how is that controlling your life while
Yeah.
still wanting to be an artist and show those emotions?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I think I'm still figuring it out. I mean, my baby girl's she's a year and a half. Like yesterday, she just became a year and a half. My wife and I are going to be married 4 years this summer, which is crazy.
That's
Where this time goes.
That's what
Crazy. Thank you. There's a balance, right? But like I said, because the music comes from this organic place, I find that it's not hard to balance it out. What's hard is when I want to put my foot on the gas with the music and the production and the business side that we all say that like, oh yeah, we got to keep working on that part. That's always the uphill battle, Mikey, shout out to Mikey, he always says, dude, when it comes to the music, you'll always have it. The business side is always going to be the part that you're going to have to work for like anyone else. I think balancing family and business and figuring out what sacrifices are wise to make, what sacrifices do I not want to make, where are there some compromises that they're not negotiable.
Yeah.
I'm figuring that out. I'm feeling it out, I think 2023 is a big year to keep exploring those boundaries and exploring those limits and see how far I can push and take it. I think coming out here and doing this show was one of the perfect, exhibit A.
Yeah.
Took my family out here. My wife and child are at the in-laws, and I'm right here vibes.
It's a great thing.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been a great experience, man. It's been a learning process for sure.
1,000%. Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's get into the origin of why you guys started making music. Was it something that you always wanted to do as like a kid, like growing up, or was it something that came later on in like grade school, high school?
So I think like my first memory of music, man. I've always done this thing, man. I think elementary, I was interested in music. Elementary school, middle school, you start to backseat freestyle with your friends or go on walks and start putting beats on, doing silly stuff.
Lunchtime.
Yeah, sus bars. Like we was doing it, bro.
Yeah.
We was growing, and I think like that all shaped this knack for when I hear a beat. What can I put on it? How can I show up on the song?
Yeah.
And I didn't start nurturing it until high school. That's when I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to a studio. I met a friend in college, high school, Chuck Olson. Shout out to Chuck. And Chuck was a really big influence as a producer because he always had an idea of, oh, I like this beat. We'll go to a studio and we'll record your verse on this beat. And we would drive out to White Plains and go. And that's actually where Marcus and I started to connect with one another. because he was there to hang out with Chuck, and I came, and we all got together. So we used to go somewhere else, and then we were like, "Yo, Chuck, you can do this yourself. Like, let's do it in your basement." He started setting up a studio. We started rapping. I produced 75% of my first album in that basement. I tried a lot of different things, played with voices, played with singing. I think I just fell in love with the process of creating a song and how that, again, is based on where I was in life. And I think that's my obsession with the music production process. It's like, when it's all said and done, the pipeline's hard to manage in terms of, all right, I've got this verse done, now I gotta record it, and then after I record it, I've now gotta, mix it, and then I gotta master the track, and then I gotta release it. I suck at the back end pieces, but the actual spark of, man, I can't wait to finally process life with this. Boom. Like, I love that. And then to be able to look back and say, hey, this is how far I've come. You know what I mean? Music for me, as journal entries, it also is a really great, like, these are my stones in the River Jordan that say, this is the waters I've crossed. Listen to me talk about wrestling with fatherhood, or wrestling with that first relationship, or wrestling with my insecurities. And it's really wild. The other night you said something that made me think of it. You said that the lessons that we go through are just the same lesson over and over again. And I really believe that. And I think, like, music for me, it's been a site, like a location where I get to hear the concrete of those lessons as they get bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's what the music thing is for me, and that's how it started. I'm trying to think if I think it was just organic from there. I had to teach myself how to do stuff. In college, we had access to studio gear, so my best friend Steve and I, we would break in. Security guy, try to be cool with him so we can get in there and be there till 3 a.m., 4 a.m. and just make music.
Hell yeah, bro. Shit's on campus, nobody's using it. Why not? I mean, you guys really took advantage of it. Because that's like, that was the time in your life where it's like, yo, you can really hone in on your skill if you execute on things you want to do. I mean, like, we're seeing that come to fruition, you know what I mean? We're still young, and it's like, we can do what we want to do. It's like, yeah, we're not balling off of it, but it's like, yo, we're making what we want to do, and it's like, so like finding that and having the technology available, and that's really what I appreciate in our generation is like, it could seem like people take it for granted sometimes because it's like we got so much shit, but it's like people that really jump in. I mean, like, what did Frankie Fermi posted that the other day. He's like, the Earth is like something billion years old.
But then to live
he's like, but you live in the same time that this scarlet interfaces are existing.
Right.
It's like, yo, that's so true.
That's
anybody who uses audio on the internet will understand that post, and it's like just having access to that stuff. So it's like, being able to really hone in on that craft at the high school age where you guys really did that shit. So I mean,
and you think that the core piece, like, you take that scarlet and you ask yourself who made it, and who made that, and who made that, and who made that. It all connects to the same place. And so that also adds another dimension to it where I'm just like, it's an honor to do this, bro. It's an honor to be able to make music, to hear a beat, and actually, like, somehow organically know how, and then have the machinery I can to create music that actually creates emotional response out of people. Like, this, the whole thing is an honor, bro. It's crazy how far we've come, for real.
So, what was the real reason why you started to make your music? And when you were, like, what made you start, and, like, what were your few, like, influences from the jump? Like, if you, like, your childhood, if you give me, like, your childhood, like, we don't gotta put no order. Orders are too difficult and political. You can just give me, like, 3 to 5 artists that you love when you were a kid, and if you could reflect now, who are some 3 to 5 artists, and if any of them are mainstays, or give me a little intel on why, and like who were some of those influences.
Well, the why would be, you're gonna have to remind me, but the why.
Or is it just because it's you?
It felt good for me.
Yeah.
I think that was it. It just felt cool.
It had like a pull.
It had a pull, you know, and my wife will tell you, I get in the car and I listen to my own music. Like, I'll be completely honest. I listen to beats I plan on destroying, and I listen to my own music, and I listen to my camp's music. I really don't spend too much time listening to other people's music much. unless I'm literally setting apart time to consume a new album that just dropped on a Friday, or I'm in like album mode and I need.
I also struggle with that, finding new music that drops on a Friday. I don't know. I don't know. It was the last like album that I downloaded from a big rapper. You know what I mean? Because just like I'm not on the that new album section
It's
on
difficult.
Apple Music for me. Like I just.
It's kind of like what we were talking about, what Hato was talking about earlier in terms of like news. I think if you're following the right people on social media, they'll get you the information you need. But back in high school, I remember we used to have to go to like thisisbuckwild.com and like look up what the new drops were this week, and then Lil Wayne's new mixtapes coming on datpiff.com. Like,
damn, R.I.P. Datpiff.
Datpiff, bro.
Well, let's take a
YouTube
wild
channels.
let's take a wild throwback to when you were in high school and you got us into like the freestyle with those ridiculous Super Hot Fire videos.
Yeah.
Bro, can you tell us like who put you onto those? Because that was like such a
That's a staple.
that was such a
Yeah,
staple
bro.
part of like the mid 2010s, where it was just like Super Hot Fire freestyle. They were just the funniest shit
He's
ever.
the GOAT, bro.
You were waiting for that second part for like months onto a year, and he like super high drop. It's like,
Yo, let's get it.
it's like
They show him raw, bro, and then he still pops out sometimes. I think he still does YouTube, but I think that was just the era of YouTube was running everything, bro. There was
Yeah.
no Vine or
It was
TikTok,
smaller
just yet.
social media, so it was just that
We
one.
were sitting there watching some weird stuff on the internet, man, and
That
it
was the
amazing.
most prime YouTube.
Yeah. And I remember my family loved it. It was just we were passing videos around. I think my high school friends were probably the ones that put me on, and then I was like seeing y'all, and I was like, yeah, I gotta show y'all this. This is definitely.
That was definitely like, because I wasn't like, I didn't listen to freestyles and stuff, and that's not like your typical freestyle. It's like some kind of like a parody type.
Right.
But it was so funny,
No.
and it was like, bro, he actually like, he's not saying like goofy, like
No, he was
everything
actually
he's saying is
spitting
goofy, but he's
bars.
actually saying bars, and it's
Yeah.
like, you get a laugh every time.
And then he had the one where Chris Rock was the opponent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what,
I
bro?
don't even know.
It was
And
taking
then
the
he
world
had
by
Soulja
storm.
Boy, too.
Soldier Boy, and he had Blueface. He had Blueface.
Yeah, on his
Yeah.
most recent thing.
Yeah. So all that being said, bro, it was a magical thing, and I think you were bound to find it. But I'm glad I was the one that got introduced.
Yeah,
It was
that's
iconic. We
hilarious.
used to sit at the Dell PC in the living room and just be like,
Bro, earlier we were thinking about questions. I was like, Joe, I gotta ask him about Super Hot Fire. Like
Hell
that was
yeah,
that
bro.
was a time where we would just sit in front of the computer and just be like, yo, let's just rewatch all of them again.
I think one year I popped out as glasses, jacket, shirt man for Halloween. I just put a
Glasses,
little leather
jacket,
jacket
shirt.
on. Got the
I already got my
glasses.
glasses on.
They're asking me who I am. I'm like, I'm classic jacket, shirt man. And they're like, I don't know who that is.
Like, call me glasses, jacket, shirt, man.
Exactly.
Like, you don't even get it. I
And
just
then you
fucking-
get like the 1 out of 4 people you talk to, they're like, I like that,
Yeah,
super
yeah.
hot fire. But yeah, man, I think rap even then was important to me. I think what was that? I think I was maybe freshman, sophomore.
I was about to say that was probably like 2013, 14.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
tail end of high school and junior year, senior year, it had become important to me already at that point. I didn't know what I could do with it, but it was definitely a valuable thing to me at that time.
Right.
So I guess circling back to his question in terms of artists, J. Cole is obviously a very important rapper to me. Like, if you know me, you know I love J. Cole. And I think back then he was a big voice. Drake was also a big voice because that was within high school, So Far Gone, Thank Me Later, and Take Care. All hit.
Yeah.
So it's
That
like,
was
and then
the-
as I was going into college, nothing was the same. Come on, like, I don't know.
we were saying, I was talking about that the other day. I was like, I think that one might be like the top
Yeah.
Drake album for me.
Nothing
Like
was.
that was just like, dang.
Yeah.
It's
perfect.
different. There's a couple bangers on that shit. And it's like, oh, that was a pure time.
I'm pretty sure I watched his interview and he was like, "That's my best." I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
he talks to Tidal, and it was a Tidal interview.
It might be, yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, no, that's the best one I've done."
I don't hate him for that answer.
That's a pretty good
I
answer.
second that one.
If he had said "So Far Gone" or something, I would have been like, "You're bugging." But,
Yeah. Nah.
So I think him, and then on the Christian side of things, Andy Mineo was really, really important at that time. I
Nice.
know me and you used to freaking rock out to Andy Mineo all the
That
time.
was, yeah.
You remember when his Heroes for Sale album came out?
Bro, I still got that merch.
Crazy
I
merch.
still have that tank top, the size small. I still have it. It's just because that was like the first merch I ever bought as from an artist.
Sheesh.
So I still keep that. It's like I could, but it's like I'll probably put it on a.
On a jacket.
You might recycle that look.
Bro, it was the
you should.
wildest
See
thing.
you
I was
later.
at work one night at PacSun. I was at the cash register.
Oh yeah.
I look up. I'm like, my boss named Miguel. I was like, Miguel. I was like, that guy's a famous rapper, yo. And he was like, word? I was like, yeah. I was like, you mind if I go? He was like, yeah. I was like, all right, thanks. Because somebody was buying something. I was like, yo. I was
Middle
like,
of the
yo. I was like, yo, Andy. I was like, I'm a fan. I was like, I'm lying. I was like, my brother is the biggest fan. I was like, he put me on to you. I was like, yo, can I FaceTime him? He was like, yeah. He's like, I'm gonna keep shopping. I was like, bet.
I still got that shit on my phone. The
Yeah,
fucking
the
screenshot.
screenshot.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, "That's crazy. Is that edited? No, that's not edited. That's real life."
So now we know some intel on your artists that have influenced you. Let me just ask you, when was the first time that you recorded a song, and is that song, if I'm not mistaken, is that song Weird, featuring King Many? Was that the first song that you recorded and uploaded, or is that just the first song that was out to the public?
Yeah, this when you say uploaded, Weird was the first song I've ever uploaded. SoundCloud still there to this day. Courage the Cowardly Dog House on the cover. I was inspired in college. We were using that studio up in the music building called Partington. And at that time, that was around the time when Loudmouths was coming to true fruition. We had adopted Loudmouths from two former alumni. They passed it on to myself and my boy DK, and we were in charge of basically continuing this spoken word, poetry, rap group at the college as a club called Loudmouths. And so we were getting together in the studio all the time. Many was there, and Many was from Canada, and I'm pretty sure he was there for sport, but he didn't really hang out with too many people, but he hung out with us. He could rap. He had a very Joey type of sound, and he was like, let's make a song. We found a beat on a line, got it, did the work, put it together. It was so fun, man, to be able to release it. I remember being very intimidated by letting the world hear it, but I'm so glad I released it because I never looked back.
What was your original approach to making a song? What was it like? Would you write something out first and then find the beat, or would you cohesively do it at the same time? All right, I'm kind of thinking of an idea. Let me find a beat that can go with this idea, or would you piece it together?
There are some songs that don't start with a beat. They start just writing. You have a line or two that fall out of you, or you're inspired by a movie, a TV show, conversation. That's kind of how some start for me. For a lot, I'd say 80%. I hear a beat, and I don't actually like writing without the beat because there's certain nuances to the way a kick hits, or the bass comes in, or the way all the higher sounds kind of cut off, and there's a low pass, whatever. I hear all that stuff, and that makes me have different things that want to come out in certain tones and voices.
Evokes different emotions.
Exactly. There you go. And as I've gotten older and I've gotten a lot more experience at the actual music, my notes that I sing aren't as flat anymore. So now it's introducing new notes and melodies and harmonies and stuff that are really cool too. So song process wise, that's how I'd say I start most songs. But sometimes it'll be other. And when I'm collabing with other people, it usually is I want to catch their vibe, and I want to bring myself into their vibe while also complimenting what they're doing.
Right.
That's very important to me.
Without compromising yourself at the same time.
It's very
sense.
So, I'm gonna take a rewind. Back in 2017, that was when you released 36 L's,
Yeah.
your first album.
Yeah.
That we were talking on briefly before.
Yes, sir.
13-track album.
13.
If you could just dive in, what was the root meaning behind 36 L's? We know we got the IV single beforehand, and had now understood. All right, what is IV?
Yeah.
So what did 36 L's? What was that unveiling of?
Absolutely.
What IV was?
36 L's was based off of, I was inspired by a story in the book of Joshua, where God's people, the Israelites, are being led by Joshua. They come across a town. The town's called Ai, and they send some spies in there to check out the town to see if this is okay for them to go into. But before they do so, Joshua, as the leader of God's people, is supposed to pause and make sure that that's the move and ask God, but he doesn't, and he makes a decision, without actually letting God into that decision. And as a result, group of guys go in there, 36 people die, 36 heads of household. That's 36 dads that kids don't have their dads, wives don't have their husbands. That caught me for some reason. It was the principle of like living a life willy-nilly in terms of like just doing whatever I want all the time, how much death I could reap even if I also got life, if that makes sense.
Totally.
And so I think I was obsessed with the lesson that he had to learn, because then it almost is like the next chapter is the same wording and same skeleton as the first chapter, except the difference is he talks to God first, and as a result, they take that land and they progress forward in the story, you know. And I think that point was major for me, and I wanted to kind of pin lessons that I had to learn through life, through heartbreak, through places where I said I want to date this girl, though I didn't think about it before I dated her, or I want to make this decision with, you know, I want to be selfish in this area, but then think of how that would end up harming me or doing someone else dirty, you know. That's what the album ended up being a formation of. But then, of course, you don't want it to sound all down and depressing. So there's that redemptive notion that's really important too. You know, that point of like, what's a loss? It also can be a lesson, perspective-wise. That's where 36 Hours was birthed. And what was great about the production process, I don't know if you were going to head there, but I invited and involved my community in that album as much as I could. You know, like almost 7 features, I'm pretty sure, on that 13-track album.
Yeah.
One of them was one of our choirs at the college. And every person I asked for a feature was similar to me when I approached the feature. I knew it was going to cost them something to write this verse, because conceptually I was asking you to step into this world of a song. And so it was cool, because when it released, it didn't feel like my album, it felt like ours. And it didn't feel like something I did, it felt like something we did.
Like a collective, like, success, like, we made as a team.
Yeah. I think Loud Mouths was behind me throughout the entire process, inspiring me, helping out. Some of them were on the project, and that club was really formative, you know, in terms of my ear and how I can form a project, you know. So that's why the second project, because I still haven't released like a second album. I haven't released a studio album yet, is what I should say. It's harder, man. You know.
It is a studio album. It's too technical.
Yeah.
So what is a studio album to you?
I think a studio album is something you produce and you legitimately sell through distribution services, and it's yours. Like, you really take and you go out with it. I feel like my album, 36 L's, would technically be called, which is why I called it, more of like a project, more of like a compilation, or like how Drake doesn't call what's that one that he did? More Life. He doesn't call More Life like an album. He calls it like a playlist or a project. That kind of a vibe. So I want to release another album. I'm going to do it this year. This is going to be the year. And it'll be my first legit, like, I really put my money on myself. I paid for it. Every beat is my beat. I own this. And now I can see what happens. Crazy.
I mean, just off the numbers, the fans' favorite off of that album was No Escape, and you have a featuring of Marcus Jordan, the Philip Zero. I mean, was this your personal favorite? I mean, the numbers say it was everybody else's favorite. I mean, what do you think?
My favorite song on the album is Just Me. But that song is crazy. No Escape was like the second to last song on the album to get done. I was waiting for the Philip Zero verse. And so I think like I was already a product of the lessons I had to pin into all the other songs when I wrote the verse for No Escape. So it feels like the most matured Isaiah on the album. And I don't know if that's part of why, but I think I've got messages from people on YouTube, random folks that have been impacted by that song, because I think what we did there was just be very transparent about our fears and the stuff that like we wrestle with that's hard to escape from. And I think that goes, it's freeing to hear someone else talk about that stuff. And you have stuff you're dealing with too.
I think those are my those are my favorite songs. That's why I love Cuddy's songs so much, because you say the things that I want to say, but it's like, well, they're already said in a song. I could just replay it to 1,000, you know.
Voice for others.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really what I appreciate about musicians. You know what I mean? It's like they could say things that I just don't know how to elaborate in such a presented way.
Absolutely.
And it's just like, oh, I couldn't have said that any better. That fits my scenario. It's not to the T, but it's like, well, yeah, I piece in my thing here, and then that scenario is like, well, the outcome is kind of how my outcome came out.
Yeah, you're giving me the key to unlock what it is I'm trying to say or how it is I'm trying to feel. 100%.
Right.
That's the thing about music, man. I mean, not just music, creativity in general, but work.
You get to speak for others that never thought they would ever say it.
Okay, before we go to the next question.
Following the 36 L's and talking about No Escape and Marcus Jordan, was that the first time that you guys were on a track that was distributed to the public? Was that the first record? Because I know you talked about meeting with him with Chuck, but was that the first like distributed record between you two?
I think we have another song. I think it was called like Real maybe? Get Real? Keep It Real. No, more than that. We did Keep It Real. And then we had a group with another guy. All together, we called ourselves TLS. And we had a couple songs on like that project that we did together. But for me and Marcus, I would say like when we really found out the two of us can really Mario and Luigi, Batman and Robin these things, was Keep It Real, which is Chuck Olson's song. It's still on SoundCloud today. So if you type in Isaiah Velez, Marcus Jordan, you'll find it. But that's where we realized like you need a creative. We don't need a hook. We can do an interlude. We just kind of effortlessly fall into these pockets. We could pass the rhymes back and forth with one another. So by the time I asked Marcus for that No Escape verse, it was because I felt owed it in the sense of like I knew he was going to keep it real on this track, and it was going to require him to dig deep. And because it's me, he was going to dig deep.
Right.
You know, and same the way I would do it for him.
So you go by the Good Kids. What is that origin? Like, where did you guys come up with that, and where was that first seen?
Yeah, I guess the whole.
So another feature, or not feature, but another song that we dropped as a freestyle after a studio session, I think a mix that 36L season, was the Good Kids. We took an old beat, I can't remember which beat it was off the top of my head, and we had a couple leftover bars, and we were just like, yo, let's just put a couple bars over it. And I'm pretty sure Marcus has a line where he's like, I'm just a good kid in the fun ass world. I can't remember the lyric, but the Good Kids part was all that really mattered. And I said, at the end, you know, when you have a song that's not titled and you finish the whole thing, you look at all of it and you go, okay, here's the name.
Right.
We said, we're going to call this the Good Kids. And then we're like, we're going to call
you guys
us
are
the Good Kids.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I'll let him speak for himself when you get the opportunity to talk to him. But I've always been a good kid. Like, I've always been the one that does what he's supposed to do. And I always try to be like, you know, I was often called goody two-shoes and all. I say, always got it. Marcus is similar. In high school, he always had that kind of a vibe to him, like someone who just was a genuinely good person.
I feel that.
And, like, still to this day, he's a solid dude. So all that being said, we're like, this just fits.
Right.
In too many ways to describe. So
That's
where we got the Good Kids from.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, the Good Kids were on a Standing Off the Wall project.
Yeah,
that was their debut.
So that was our
the
technical
official name debut.
Yeah, because all we had was that feature.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so you played a big role in us actually following through.
Making sure that shit happened.
I have a picture of a shirt that we made for his first listening party. We'll put the picture up on the screen right now.
Heck
But I
yeah.
have that
Shout out
picture
to
on my
Good
phone.
Kids.
And I was looking through the shirts the other day. I was telling him, because before the event, I was just looking through my pictures on all the clothing that we made and all that.
It was like
Yeah.
5
And I
years.
went up to the top, and it was the very first thing. It was like 2018. I was like, oh shit. I was like, yo, this shirt says the Good Kids on it. And he's like, oh shit. And then it was just
I
like,
remember the font you chose for those photos. I mean, for those
Yeah,
shirts.
that's
I remember that. That was a good time.
They didn't really choose those.
yeah, it was just
Those fonts
a
chose us.
stencil kit.
And
And
that
it was
was
just
it.
like,
You just
it was
rock
the
with it.
easiest thing to screen print
Yeah.
with the small screen printers that we had. And but yeah, the Good
Look how
Kids.
far you guys have come, bro. That's also kind of crazy creatively, like the t-shirts you make and then now the art that you're making.
Yeah, it's
Right.
wild that we started our brand that was the first time that we started selling clothes together, and it was like the first time the Good Kids released something as the Good Kids,
Yeah.
and it was the first time Sammy put out a project. It was
A lot
like
of
everything
firsts.
dropping at the same time in the creating of things. It was just
And I remember that session was crazy because I wrote that verse in the studio. Like you already
That
had
ass.
come prepared And I remember I was like, all right, yeah, I'll write something.
On and On was
That's
favorite.
that's
It was a
the
really
project.
good
That's,
song.
That was
that's
my
the
favorite.
best from that.
I still listen to it today. Like, I listened to it on the way over here, actually.
When you when you took that down, I was devastated because I was like, I just want that song if I can have it.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
I put it back.
You should just.
No, I did.
That
I
Oh,
put it
yeah,
back.
no, it's on SoundCloud.
Yeah.
that
Oh,
beat
yeah, I
solo
saw
is
Sure,
a
I put
tight
it back
beat,
up.
very good tight beat.
I feel like. I mean, I've heard a lot of some unreleased. I don't know if I have the final name for them, but those have been some. I
Yeah,
heard those last night, a few of them.
yeah.
Nah, I think that entire body of work that you guys put together, I think it's hard to pick a favorite song just because when I look at it from top to bottom and I hear, damn, like this is a full, alright, I'm in their world. And like, cause I'm working on a dual project myself. So it's like to be able to hear two other people and it's just like refreshing to know that other people are collaborating freely and like expressing their true emotion and there's no people think it's competition and shit. It's like it's genuine and it's like competition to see how we can make each other better.
Absolutely.
And that's what the root of it is.
Healthy
That's
competition.
right, and that's all it is, and that's all you need within to be an artist. You need good competition from somebody that says, "Hey, I love you, but hey, you better not mess up your rap shows. I'm gonna do this dolo."
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? And that's
dog walked on the
right,
track.
exactly.
I mean,
Respectfully.
That's what it seems like listening to it and like watching you guys even at the release party. It was like the energy was great. You guys worked together cohesively.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like the energy, it was great to see you guys on stage.
I think we pulled that out of each other. That's why I'm grateful for Marcus. I told him that the other day. You know, behind closed doors, I was like, bro, I don't think my love for creativity would exist without our paths crossing. You know, you've always been someone like, and one has a sample in the beginning of the song, and I have to listen to it because then the beat hits right after, and I jump in with the dust off the notepad. And the other day I was listening to it, and I was like, that was a snippet from, I think I was going to drop a project. I said, yo, let me film you because you're on that song, so I want to make sure I get your. And we ended up using it as a sample years later as an opener.
Yeah.
I think like he was very important in me feeling affirmed in my creativity. That's the word.
Yeah.
It's not very often that you meet people like Chance that throw gas on that fire of creativity, and it's not like you have to come off like this for you to be creative. You have to come off like that for it to be.
Right.
It's just like, yo, bro, whatever you got going on, let's go ahead and put it on the track.
Yeah.
That's always how he's been, and I think that's why I'm grateful for him. My favorite song on the project, to get back to that, it's somewhere between Silk. I'd say Silk and Tide for different reasons. I'd say the Tide because it was the most on the nose song on the project. I got experimental. I directed that one. I executively produced that one. We found a beat, but then I had a vision that I wanted to get across, and he rolled with me through it. And we do some stuff on the back end of that song where we trade sentences. Like, I'm pretty sure if the sentence was like 5 or 6 words, I'm saying the first 4, he's saying the last 2, which I don't know a lot of rappers that do that,
Yeah.
but it sounds like we're the same person when we're saying it, and we wrote the verse together. And when it was done, it was kind of like, yo, bro, we just did that. And while we were doing it, it wasn't like, how are we gonna do this? It was just like, we're doing it.
You know, it's crazy you say that it sounded like you were the same person because when you guys were both on the track On and On, I thought it was just you, dog. Until I looked at the thing, I was like, yo, who's Marcus? I thought it was just you because you guys have a similar sound and I just wasn't listening close enough. And then when I listened to it again, it was like, that's clearly 2 different voices.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, you guys had, but it's crazy that you
I
say
think
that.
we
'cause
sonically match each other very well.
Voices complement each other.
And what's cool is, in terms of the journey of music, a lot of what you'll hear in the beginning is like that. But I think as we continue to progress, our distinct voices are starting to blossom even more. Yet the complementing still exists, which is why.
Even more so because you're honing more of your own individuals.
Exactly. And then Silk was my other favorite, by the way, because Marcus actually produced that one.
Yeah.
Don't let him, when you get him in here, you get after
I'm not
him for this.
I
But
gotta
he
have
doesn't
that
release a lot of his music that he's produced the beat of.
We gotta get both of you in here together.
Oh yeah, definitely gotta get good kids. But somehow, bro, I don't know why he doesn't feel like he should or not. But I said when I heard that beat, I said that's on the track, and that's the single. Stop playing with me,
Facts.
you know.
I'm not gonna lie, Silk is probably one of my favorite song. The bars you guys had on that song, it was just like bam.
Yeah,
You guys spit on that
we
song.
had a lot of fun on that one.
That's all to you, Marcus, for doing your thing. You killed that shit.
Hell yeah, bro. Come on.
I know some of your favorites on the Good Kids, but I want to ask you, what's one of your personal favorite songs that you've dropped as Isaiah Velez?
Damn, I should have came prep for y'all. No, it's good that I didn't.
That's right. I could throw mine. My favorite is probably Tension, because just like you guys, I don't even like the length of the song is as it is. You know what I mean?
It's a long.
Was it like a 4-minute song? And it's just like the entire time, and just like it's not lacking one bit. You know what I mean? I re-listened to it this morning because like that song's in one of my playlists. You know what I mean? And it's just like, so this morning I was like, let me re-listen to that song. I was like, damn, yeah, that's my favorite song that he's put out.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it.
So I just want to get that out. So, you know.
Tension was special, man. Tension was supposed to be on this album that's coming out soon, and I've been holding on to it for like 4 years, and it was just time for it to come out. And had an opportunity to produce it, and we dropped it. Got to have Steven on there too, which was not supposed to happen. It happened by chance. Like when that thing was the genesis of it, Steven was far away from that, other than just being like an encourager. But him being on the song was special. And there's this part where Andy goes, wow, wow, wow. And that was major too. I needed him to do that for me. That was so dope. Just to add some texture. I think I'd answer this. What's your favorite?
Hell, but that's not released.
Yeah. So I'll answer unreleased and released.
Oh man.
Okay? I think released, like publicly released, it's hard, bro, because I really love a lot of things. I would say it's somewhere between like Grace. I like Grace on the Grace and Truth EP. I think that was really like, I was going through a lot in that season, and a lot of what's on this next album, that was one of the first songs that started to kind of dig into how I feel about the season. So that's a very important song to me, I think I'd say. Unreleased, it's probably it's a song called Me. It's the interlude of the upcoming album. And I'll tell you about the album if you ask, but I'm not going to tell you unless you ask. Hell is on the project. Hell's track 3, but this song, track 7, is called Me. It is probably my most honest song I think I've ever written, ever. I think I got very, very honest, and it was a really good one.
You think it's because of the point of the life that you're in right now? I mean, you know, you started a family recently. You got married a couple years ago. I mean, you're a dad, so it's like you have a new approach to making music than you did when you were a teenager. You know what I mean?
I think so. I also think I'm going through big boy lessons compared to the ones that I thought were the end of the world back then.
Yeah,
right?
They were just layups for the bigger things.
100%, bro.
Yeah.
I very much believe like if this is like the first time you deal with a lesson, when you come around to meet it again, you meet it and it's a lot wider, and then when you meet it again, you meet it and it's a lot wider, and the size of that lesson, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. But then there's the compounding. So I think that's why the music sounds so different. It's like I am all of who I've become through this music. You know, it's cool how that happens. I think that the season I was going through with my fallout with my home church and leaving my church, it wasn't the prettiest departure that it could have been. And so being that was quite traumatic, to be honest with you, I think I leaned in, and that song came out right as things were falling apart. I think that came out of me.
Right.
I found a beat. I said, "Oh yeah," and it started flowing. So I'm excited for the world to hear that one. I think it's going to be very special. I think people are going to hear it, and it's going to do a lot of what we were talking about earlier. Give people the key to unlock some stuff they need to process.
Do you have like any timelines of like any singles that you're gonna come out? It doesn't have to be that one specifically, but like any ones in the next few weeks, the next few months.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll make the public announcement. This is public, again, exclusive right now. You should be hyped. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
So October 2nd of 2017 was when 36Ls came out, and it was a movement. So I think I'm gonna do October 2nd of this year is when I'll drop this next one. So you'll see some promotional stuff, singles, videos drop all throughout the next couple of months everything building up some momentum to the release of this bad boy. So now that I've said it, I've got a lot of accountability because I'm on cam.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So let me further ask, because my life is in this album now.
It is.
So
For those of you who don't know, Hell has Sammy on it. That's why he likes it so much.
This guy. His favorite songs of his is them together. I mean,
hey,
I
but
don't
I'm
hate
not
it,
the only one that's
but
on that song.
That
Awesome.
I mean, but that shows like that you guys really like do some real true work in those sessions, because it's like if those are your favorite songs, it's just like, bro, like,
we made that
because it's like because there's a
easy.
different because now there's a connection to it, you know what I mean? So now there's different emotions. It's like, yeah, bro, it's my favorite song because it's like, yeah, half of that story is mine, but also like I relate to that one story that he told so much.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
Let me ask, like, when was this started? Like, when did the base concept of it, and when did you start asking whoever would be on it, or when did you start putting together it? Because I remember when you were still residing in New York, and I see the big ass wall that has a whole album on it.
Mm.
And so I've seen the whole web of it going back and forth, but I want to know how that's transferred to Texas, and just like what the origin of that was.
Yeah.
Because I remember it briefly, but my point of view is different than yours.
You raise a good point. On my Instagram, if you watch any of the videos of me rapping on screen into the camera, in the background, you can see the album. You can see all the tracks, and you can see it's not necessarily in that order anymore, but you can see it. So I've been chewing on this. I'd say the album 36 L's came out October 2nd, 2017. The next album's concept came like October 3rd, or maybe October 4th.
Right.
So it's been 6 years.
Wow.
Almost. It'll be 6 years when it drops.
That's true dedication, and like you don't want to just put out something because it's just people want it. It's like, no, well, if you want something, I want to give you like my true full potential and like my new sound that like you mastered a sound, so it's like, yo, I've took so much time to master this.
Right.
I don't want to give you like the half-ass like
Right.
version of it. I want to give you the full, like my full vision on this project. So
I think that thought pattern, right, is true, and I think it was true to a fault for me for a decent amount of time in these 6 years, because it was always about like perfecting everything. Oh, I got to show that 36 L's was mad like mediocre sonically, and I recorded it with like a potato essentially. Like I gotta make sure people know.
Yeah.
Like my mixing game is boom, and
Yeah,
I can pay for it. I'm realizing now that project, it will sound how it needs to sound for it to be widely accepted. But a lot of those songs got songs that I wrote 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago. And I'm so much less concerned about you hearing the most updated version of me as much as I'm concerned about me having done the work of learning the lessons that I'm now going to go about releasing a song. And it's going to usher into the world.
Yeah.
That's what it's about for me. And I think that's why it's taken so long. So moving has changed things. Having a baby has changed things. I mean, my wife and I just bought our first home over in Dallas, Texas.
Congrats to that, brother.
Thank you, bro. All that, man, and what it does to your marriage, to you as a person after living in New York for 26 years, deciding to just uproot and go somewhere. All of that, I wanted to get every last drop of that because it was all very important for the album.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's delayed it, and I think that's why it's going to feel a little special. Production-wise, I've always invited people into the process of growth and living life. I don't think you should do life alone, and my music is a reflection of my life, so why the hell would I do music alone? Yeah. And I remember when we did Hell, you, Jalen, shout out Jalen, you guys were my youth, as I was a youth pastor at church, and I wanted that song to sound like your anthem. And I couldn't do it without you. And I put myself in your shoes and entered into a world and asked you to show me how to navigate this world. And Jalen did the hook, and he did the first verse, and then I come in because they've set the scene for me. And when you hear the album in its whole, I'm not gonna, magician doesn't give all the tricks, right? But at the end of the day, when you hear the album as a whole, Hell is very important in you grasping the lesson that I'm trying to get across.
Yeah.
So couldn't do it without them because I wasn't able to learn that in real life without them.
That's what's up.
So, are you gonna leak the album name or not?
So the album is called Savior. with a question mark, like savior. And I'm wrestling with savior complex. I'm wrestling with looking for affirmation in people, and people looking for affirmation in me. Taking a nice look at the people we put our faith in, and if we should be or not. Should we put our faith in our family? Should we put our faith in our friends or in ourselves? Or are we just prolonging disappointment? Expectations not being met. And what does God have to say about that? What does the Bible have to say about that? What can we see in our own lives when we just keep our eyes open to this notion? My hope is that like people jump into that world and they understand, oh, Isaiah's been kind of wrestling with this concept, and now at the end of it all, he's not wiser for it, but grateful for the beauty he's gotten to see as he's kept his eyes open to it. Hopefully they'll see that same beauty. Originally the album was called Captain, but I changed it because Captain just didn't stick around. I was obsessed with like Steve Rogers for a little bit there. I was like Captain America, but I'm glad I stuck with Savior. So Savior's
So Captain America was kind of like the.
Oh yeah, in that time, in the beginning.
Yeah.
That was back when Marvel.
I remember the rep.
Yeah. I mean, but I think Savior has a stronger like undertone meaning into it. You know what I mean? It's not just like because if it was Captain, it'd be like, oh, you're calling yourself the Captain, but it's like Savior is like, wait, he's questioning something.
Exactly.
So I mean.
Absolutely, man.
I think that should. Because, like, is that why you were like, why Captain and not Savior?
100%. It's about how people respond to it and what it's connected to, And again, it's a perfect example. It started as Captain, but then as the years went on, you hear enough people look at you going, you got a Savior complex. You start to go, maybe I should be calling it Savior, not Captain. And that's kind of how we ended up where we're at. And I wouldn't change anything, man. I'm happy with the title. Now it's just about putting the finishing touches on things.
We've heard about the music, we've heard about everything coming up. Let's jump all the way back to the very beginning of our timeline. What's your earliest recollection of heading down to Maryland and seeing us or us going up here? Is like, I mean, my earliest, like we were talking about earlier, like our earliest is that one party your mom had in Upper Nyack, and we drove all the way down from Maryland, and it was like, we didn't know where we were and shit, you know what I mean? But then like on the ride home, I remember passing the Palisades Mall and then like moving here, I was like, oh shit, wait, this is where we came up to see them that one time. So it was like...
Yeah. I remember coming to Maryland and playing football with y'all. Remember that?
I'm not sure.
Maybe at the first house? At our house?
No, I think it was at...
It probably was Washington Street.
I think it was
I'm sure.
Ruthie's house, actually.
Either ours or Isaac's. Isaac was like a few blocks down.
Yeah.
It probably was Isaac's party. Because now you say that, I'm remembering.
Yeah, I remember us planning the football plays out on the football.
Yeah. It's crazy how photogenic memories work. When you get like certain things into like certain parts of the memory.
It doesn't go anywhere. It's there with you.
It's there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a picture I have. Like I told you the other night, man. I remember watching Drumline.
Yeah, Drumline.
Used to watch Nick Cannon on Drumline,
Yeah,
and just try to make beats with like random objects that are in the living room, just
That's
having fun with that. Yeah, I remember being over at your house a handful of times when we come to visit. But then I also remember y'all moving here, and I remember stuff like showing you Andy Mineo, stuff like watching Super Hot Fire. But I also remember the snowstorm when we got snowed in for like 2 or 3 days.
What about that one time where, I don't know, we thought it was a wolf when we were going from your house to ours on one side, and we literally, you two looked at it first and immediately booked it, and me and Isa are in the back and we're looking like, wait, what are you guys looking at? We just looked forward and
up in the back of the parking lot.
The deer, the wolf or something was up there, right by. You said Partington Hall, right? Right,
yes,
it was right
up
there, and it was right by that really long staircase.
Bro.
And we were. It was like the midway
me
point.
And you, we was in the front. We looked up. It was like, oh shit! And we just started running.
Yeah, I was just chatting in the back, and
they
just
were
like,
so
wait,
far.
Why'd they leave? Nah, you was really getting left to get eaten.
For real.
Straight up. No looking back either. And I remember you running right there with me. And I had you because my legs were longer, but you were still right there with me.
You're like, why is this
That means
always?
you were pushing. Like,
You were
extra
quick.
effort.
I'm a fast guy. I'm a fast guy. I can run from a cop
You
if
can
I
just
need.
picture somebody that was driving would just see a large man and then just half the body size running the same speed,
Just booking.
arms so
Just-
2 times faster,
And y'all are just,
just striding out. We're just in the
Casually
back, just
chilling.
like confused.
bro, I've
like,
seen so many strange
Nerf
things
wars,
in those
too.
woods, bro. Living on that campus, y'all living on the campus, living in the hillside apartments.
That was a wild time.
Yeah, bro, it's just like, God knew what he was doing. Timing, the way that all happened, you couldn't have timed it better, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Yeah.
In terms of how formative your presence in my life was, and vice versa.
1,000%. I mean, because like, think about it. Like, we're here at this moment right now, and it's because of the things we would do then. You know what I mean? Listening,
yeah.
listening to the raps. You know what I mean? Just fucking around
Straight up.
and just building that relationship. Like,
Yeah.
stick
Getting
around forever.
creative, just whatever. Oh, when you was living down in Nyack, having you come up to Partington when we were in college and
Nice.
record,
Yeah.
that's where we got on and on. Everything we talked about today, you can literally see the thread of how it all connects.
Yeah.
To this moment.
And that short walk of that red house and that light blue, gray, white, not knowing what color that shade is,
What even
what
is
type
that?
of shade.
It's different
but,
in different seasons. Bro.
yeah, but all somehow overseeing the same view. So
Absolutely.
it's like that, almost like that same view of life. It's like y'all have like somewhat the same reality and shit.
Now we just did a show
Right,
in the town that's
Did
on
a
that
show
water
in
that
the
was
same-
left over.
right.
And we're sitting here doing an interview in a house pretty close to that water.
I mean, so now you have your own family. You guys
Yeah.
have your own
Beautiful
house.
little girl Daya.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
How has the last year and a half been being a
Man.
dad?
Or
Let's
two,
get off- let's get off
being a
2
dad,
years,
because once
yeah.
you find out pregnancy,
Right. Let's get
you're
off this
officially a
rap.
dad.
How was it being a dad?
Bro, I love it, man. I think it's a crazy thing to have your heart outside your body looking at you and looking like you.
Yeah.
And it makes my marriage better in every way possible, you know, because I think it requires a certain level of teamwork from my wife Fran and I. But I also see my wife and my daughter, you know, and I'm sure she sees me and our daughter as well. So I just love her, man. Never been so in love with a person before. Obviously my wife, but there's something, bro, about just seeing your daughter waddle around and grow. And then you think about where you've been. I think often about where I'm headed and where I have come from and how I'll be able to walk alongside her and journey alongside her and who I want to be for her in light of what I did have and what I didn't have and all that. I don't know, man. It's great. It's grace. There's really nothing else to talk about. It's grace. It's like, man, I'm being blessed on a daily basis. This girl could be screaming her head off. We're about to go take a flight tomorrow morning, hoping she's sleeping. But you know, when the baby be crying on the flight, that could be us tomorrow, and it's still gonna be grace.
You won't be the only one though.
Yeah, that's the good thing.
There's usually 2.
Yeah, there's at least one.
Because
They
one
start-
starts it, and then the other was
they
like,
start
"Facts,
vibing.
yo, get me off this shit now. I don't want
thought
to
it
be
was
up here either. My ears pop. His ears popping too."
This is kind of wild. Like we in the air right now. Yeah, they get
Look, there's
tight.
2 kids on FaceTime. What you eating? Ice cream. What you got? Popcorn.
That kind of vibe, except they screaming their heads off on the video.
Yeah.
It's their own
And then
little.
I'm looking at people like, sorry. But these days I don't even apologize. It's been
Like
long
she's
enough.
cute. Look at her.
Yeah, just look at her face. Like,
Look at her face.
She's like, oh, okay.
I think it's grace, bro. I'm just grateful for the opportunity that God would see me fit to be the father of such a beautiful little girl, man. Can't wait to see what she'll do in this world and be able to walk alongside her and throughout all that, man. It's gonna be crazy. I haven't really been able to even write a single song about her yet because that's how gargantuan the feelings.
It's
Wow.
overwhelming.
Yeah, I don't have a song. I have a line here and there, but the full-on concept, people are like, oh, is there gonna be like a father song on the next album?
She'll get a shout out, but it's too much for me to say.
I guess maybe. Like,
But like for me to try and compact that,
it's hard.
It would be the longest album you put out.
and they'll be like, "Well, you did it for Fran." Be like, "I was forced to. I had to sing that during the wedding."
Yeah,
I
those
didn't
are
like
my vows.
day is
Like,
lifetime. I
had
could
to
say
get
it.
the vows out.
Right.
Even that, it felt like but a fraction.
Even that, it's like that. Those are beautiful 3 songs, but that's even just like you would probably be like, that's not even all I wanted to say. I didn't want to have you over here for 10 minutes. I wasn't trying to do that.
100%. Unless
Yeah.
you're with that.
Right, unless we could do that, but I know that battery's about to run out.
Big facts. I mean, have patience too, bro.
Yeah.
100%.
That's awesome, man.
But I love it, man. It's grateful. I'm grateful Grateful for my wife as well. Being a husband has changed my life for the better in every way, shape, and form. You know, and when I think about the music, I often joke around about my wife being someone who led me into a more gray, perspective-wise, a grayer space. I used to think very black and white. This, that means this. You don't do that, you don't get this. And life is so much more than that. And often, like, the beauty of who God is found so much more in the middle of the black and the white. And I think that my wife has been one of the perfect instruments that God has used to lead me into this place where I'm like more welcome of being uncertain and being unsure about how this will go and how that will go, and really not knowing the answer to that. But I'm down to explore and figure it out and see what it is. Do it through the music.
The other night you asked me to work on your jacket.
Oh, nah, don't do this to me.
And I said I would get it done before you leave on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So I did something little, like small, and I'll do something bigger when I get a nice denim jacket. I didn't want to mess up this beautiful jacket you have here. So I was like, I don't want to mess it up, so I'm just going to add to it. I'm not going to take apart and do this. So I was like, let me give you a little personal branding piece.
Yeah, show me.
And I think you'll love it.
Nah, let me see. Oh my God, this bro. I love it, bro.
And I gave it a little Sammy off the wall touch piece on the front, so people know it's from this Sammy off the wall.
Yo, bro, this is exactly what I wanted, bro. This is so dope.
For the camera, John.
It's as souvenir as it gets, bro. Have you seen it already?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I saw him make it.
I cut up some corduroy pants to match with the collar.
Oh
So
my
it has a little bit of texture on the piece.
Yo, dog, you really do this, bro. You really do this right now, bro. Hold that. I need this in my life.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to mess with this jacket. It's such a beautiful Levi's jacket. It was probably expensive,
Bro,
so I was like, I'm just gonna add
my
two.
wife was like,
And not,
this stuff's probably spicy AF, bro. I'm gonna have to see this on cam. What? This right here? This is
That's
so
it.
funny. What's the line you said yesterday when you were like, something, that's why I'm off it? You said the wall, and that's why I'm off it.
Oh, in the car? Oh, I don't remember. Oh, I wrote it down.
I'm about to
wrote it down.
I'm about to like write that shit on this, to be honest with you. Once you remember it, I appreciate you, bro. I'm grateful.
yeah, I'm gonna make you some.
You can't be childish and manly. I find my hero in these writtens like I'm Stan Lee. If every season is a chapter, this was scripted from the jump. Hit the pump, then I pivot, catch the foul with a dunk. And one. Only getting started, we ain't nowhere near the done. And one. Hands up, we ain't doing this for fun. While these other rappers reaching, we just pointing to the sun. And